First Class Productions.
If you're familiar with my channel, you know that I love the classic Tomb Raider trilogy. I've reviewed every game and their expansions in painstaking detail. Needless to say, I was hyped when the remasters were released. In a week, I played through the entire thing and tracked down every single secret. That's over 52 hours of gameplay I recorded on the PS5 version. To make things more interesting, I tried a no medipack run and managed to beat every level except for one. Saving and reloading was allowed though. Can you guess which level forced me to take one small medipack? The original Tomb Raider was the first 3D game I ever played back in the 90s, and it changed my life forever. I've been a fan of the series ever since, and re-exploring the classics with new graphics was a dream come true. Sure, I encountered far too many bugs and mistakes, some of which have been fixed with a patch. Rather than review these games again, I thought it would be fun to rank all of the levels in one giant ass video. Just for kicks, I ranked them before and after my playthrough to see if anything changed. Mostly my rankings stayed the same, but there are some spots that might contradict my original reviews. For example, in my TR1 video, I said that Netless Mines was my least favorite in that game. It always has been. Well, that's not the case anymore. Rankings will keep changing depending on different factors, but this is where I stand for now. My ranking will most certainly be wildly different from yours, but that's what's so great about these lists. Even if you don't like a level that I love, I won't hold it against you. You won't provoke my rage, don't worry. Let's keep it civil and please tell me your ranking in the comments below. Ranking 71 levels isn't that simple, is it? What I don't like about these lists in general is that they usually start negative. I guess we'll have to deal with it. I'm trying to give each level roughly the same amount of time. Fellow Tomb Raider fans, join me on this epic journey as I rank every level in the Tomb Raider Trilogy Remastered collection from worst to best, according to this guy. Anyone who's seen my TR3 video had to see this coming. This one's just a mess from start to finish. It's easy just to complain about the water part in the second half, but the first half is equally terrible. From the spiky ceilings that cause mandatory damage to the Egyptian-themed room in the museum that isn't fun at all, this stage never even glimmers with potential. It has a damned sphinx and still manages to fail. As soon as you get to the sewers, it descends from smelly trash to sickening trash. On PlayStation, you could barely see anything. In this version, it's a lot better, but still not enough to redeem the sheer torture I have to endure when constantly swimming back to get air or trying to handle the crappy controls of the submersible. Without question, it's one of the worst levels I've played in any game, and every time I restart TR3, I dread that I eventually have to revisit Lud's Gate. I've never been a fan of Thames Wharf, but it managed to sink even lower this time. My main gripe is the beginning. It's mind-numbing, and if you don't know the correct order of events, you might spend an eternity climbing back up to the start multiple times. I dig the new visuals with the city skyline, but gameplay-wise, it's a sleeping pill. It gets a little better in the second half with the water tanks, and I even like the puzzle with the yellow left-turning killer robot. Plus, I find the existence of the cathedral key to be puzzling, because it doesn't open anything. I know it was supposed to be for a bonus stage right after this one, but that idea was scrapped and All Hallows became the final stage after getting all secrets instead. The whole thing is an afterthought. I declare this the most boring level in the entire package, hands down. It's possible to take a shortcut and beat it in a minute, so there's that. You might have cottoned on to the fact that I'm not a fan of the London chapter. No offense to my British friends. All of which is the textbook definition of confusing level design. No matter how many times I play this game, I get lost every single time. It all looks the same and it's never clear what to do next. One of the worst offenders is that infamous penny that you use to buy a ticket at one of these booths. How the heck are you supposed to figure that out? Only one of them magically works, even though it looks the same as the rest. The red room drives me insane as I had to come back to it to climb up constantly. The drill isn't exactly a highlight either. I love the general concept of an abandoned tube station and the enemy selection is quite fitting. It's just lacking that quirky little thing called fun. Add a needlessly irritating switch puzzle and you've got a nice, well-rounded sensation of misery. It's a bitter surprise, but playing this stage again made me realize that I can't find much joy in it. In theory, I should love it. Think of it all as one giant puzzle, and there's a switch that changes up the entire structure of a room. Sadly, I find it more frustrating than engaging. There's always something I'm missing, and searching for the solution can end up being time consuming, getting lost in these mostly vertical rooms. This gets dull after a while. On the plus side, it might be the most gorgeous stage in the game from a visual standpoint. The detailed paintings on the walls create this sense of immersion I love so much about this series. That immersion goes out the window when panthers stay frozen just because you entered the room from the wrong side. I love Egypt as a setting, and it's a shame that Obelisk of Khamun doesn't do it justice. A controversial choice, I know, but hear me out. Kudos to the developers for trying something new. This place is surreal, and even after so many years, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at. The audio sets the mood perfectly and gives an eerie vibe. It's not my favorite vibe, but that's not why it's so low on this list. It's another instance where I just don't like the level structure. Actually playing it is a pain in the butt. Speaking of pain, we can't forget the warriors. I prefer them as statues. They're both fast and strong, making them the most dangerous foes in the game. Playing this chapter without medipacks was idiocy more than bravery. I almost feel bad for not liking it, but my feelings are my feelings, and there's not much love left for floating islands. Not even a burning rooftop can save it. The roof is on fire. Is cistern by any chance the Greek word for migraine? Both in my 2010 and 2021 reviews of Tomb Raider, I stated my dislike for this stage, and nothing has changed. Coming after a long line of incredible levels, this feels like a belly flop in quality. Just seeing this large room makes me uncomfortable. It's one big scavenger hunt for a bunch of keys that has you raise and lower the water. Today I know that you only need to raise it once if you do it correctly, but back then it took me ages to figure out what to do and where to go. Whoppa! Whereas I usually enjoy shooting an endless stream of bullets at Pierre, here he overstays his welcome. Hard. 3 times, bro? Seriously? And why is it so difficult to get to that item? Oh, that's how you do it. As much as I love the grease levels, this isn't one of them. On my first playthrough, a bug prevented me from actually playing All Hallows on the Remastered collection. The first patch fixed this problem. Frankly, I wasn't broken up about missing this forgettable adventure. I guess I can't complain too much since it's just a bonus level, but as a reward for getting every single secret in TR3, it's pretty lackluster. I like that there's almost no combat, but that's where it ends with the positives. A standout moment is the part with the floating dead bodies. Yuck. On PlayStation you lost all of your inventory, but on PC you were allowed to keep it. What's that all about? The biggest FU is the zipline that just plain kills you if you don't let go in time. Again, this is a mega puzzle and those levels can be hit or miss. Consider this one a miss. The game ends on a stronger note if you don't get to play it. Fool's Gold is the most combat-heavy level of the TR2 expansion pack Golden Mask, and that's my main gripe with it. Gunplay has never been the strongest element in classic Tomb Raider, at least in my book. The second game overdid it with human enemies, and this stage is a prime example for that. It's the same old foes with the same old weapons. So it's fiercely samey. Can something be aggressively samey? Apparently. I usually don't mind the douchebags on snow scooters, but here they piss me off. That's a shame because I think this stage had the potential to be unique with its Soviet themes.
Stalin is watching you.
The one part I fancy is the cave at the end. It's where Golden Mask shines. Too bad you have to kill over 40 enemies to get there. I never look forward to this one as it's a pretty standard action-focused endeavor with no real standout moments. The reward for getting all secrets in Golden Mask is this weird fever dream. Nightmare in Vegas is the trippiest level next to floating islands. I like certain aspects of it. You can't go wrong with a freaking T-Rex in a cage. Or a Birdman. What kind of hotel is this? Of course both eventually break free and there's even a second rampaging T-Rex to be dealt with. Crazy. Winston also follows you along, which is always a delight. But give the man some privacy, please. Other than that, it's a brain melter. On my first attempt it took me forever to realize you can climb on the sculpture. Disregarding signs as usual. Overall it's all too random for me. The developers sure like Elvis. I guess I can't complain too much as it's just a bonus they tossed in for variety, but ultimately it falls flat and isn't the reward it could have been. Easily the most forgettable chapter of TR2, I usually have a hard time separating living quarters from the rest of the Maria Doria levels. Gone are the standout moments from earlier, and by this point I'm starting to get shipwreck fatigue. It has boring block pushing which puts me to sleep. Nothing like a hard day's work pushing blocks around to make you appreciate your bedtime. The one thing keeping me awake is this creepy and unbeatable eel. Hands down the scariest moment in the game. That bottom dweller comes out of nowhere. I guess the theater is a nice change of scenery, but it devolves to you shooting bad guys ad nauseum. In the Maria Doria episode, they bother me the most because this could have been such an immersive experience. Instead, it's like a club full of dudes trying to hit on that one lady on the dance floor. Give me some space. By any means, it's not a bad stage, but I could have done without it and would have been happy if this was a 3-part ordeal. As I've established, this has always been my most dreaded stage of the original game. This time around, that finally changed. I guess I've played it so much now that I've memorized what to do without getting stuck. It was the first weaponless level, which is a welcome change of pace. I'm not the biggest fan of that whole first part though. Pulling a switch, running to the other side of the level to pull another switch which opens a door where the first switch was, just isn't great game design and feels like a chore. Facing the 3 dudes to get your weapons back one by one is a cool gimmick. Can't wrap my head around the skateboard park though. That's so 90s. Pushing Natla blocks still gives me nightmares. The barriers make this part with the rolling boulders infuriating. Natla's Mines is above all confusing and not the best of times. 40 Fathoms has echoes of living quarters, but I think this one has a little bit more going for it. It starts you off in the middle of the shark-infested ocean. Where do I swim? And what was your plan in the first place, Lara? Bring some scuba gear next time. As a kid, this was Jaws level terror and also extremely dark on our old TV. Sharks are scary, man. Bears and crocodiles ain't got nothing on them. The heartbeats are intense and really sell the trapped feeling. Too bad there's so many brainless dudes breaking the mood. You even have to open a trap door and make dirt fall into a lower room. We've already seen this in City of Kamoon, so it feels rehashed in a way. Like warmed over dirt for dinner. I can't say that I'm looking forward to this on any playthrough. Yes, that first part is memorable and intense, but I just don't get a kick out of this setting or the objectives. Lost City of Tinnis is the definition of a mixed bag. On one hand, I enjoy the 4 trials based on the elements. On the other hand, the annoyances just stack up. The vertical room with the many switches is pure boredom. If you can't figure out the solution to the fire puzzle is standing on this block with a lit flare, you're gonna have a bad time. The water puzzle is another outrage and it requires perfect timing. My most hated part and the absolute worst enemies in the entire trilogy are the wasps. To hell with these respawning green bastards. That buzzing sound will haunt me for the rest of time. It never stops. Plus you can leave the challenge rooms without picking up the masks most of the time, soft-locking yourself. This could have been a mutant slashing masterpiece, but they tried to ruin your life and succeeded. Now we've left the part with the levels I don't really like all that much. From here on out, slowly but steadily, it'll get more positive, I promise. My main gripe with Highland Fling is the overall structure. While I dig the visuals, I find it bothersome to actually play it. Speaking of visuals, this looks so much better in the original. Sometimes it's better when you don't see everything, warts and all. Anyway, what sets it apart is the final secret. Throughout your journey, you're able to see freaking Nessie twice in the distance. In theory. There's something wrong here. However, once you enter this cave, it looms out of nowhere, spitting fire at you. Turns out it's not the real deal, but a machine. Robo Nessie. What an amazing twist. Other than that, it's nothing too exciting unless you get a major kick out of dogs with glowing red eyes. By the way, what's up with the scary music when birds show up? Am I missing something? Do they spread diseases or turn me into Robo-Lara? As much as I love the Greece chapter, by the time I get to Tomb of Tihocan, I'm ready for something different. There's nothing offensive about the level itself, and I welcome the more linear approach after the many open levels. Speeding through the water tunnel in the beginning is such a thrill. Until you get to that final part with the water, it's all samey and soggy. When I saw that centaur statue come to life for the first time, I almost wet myself. The most satisfying part is finally putting an end to Pierre. You litterbug. Mr. Bullet Sponge sure had it coming. Or is it Monsieur Bullet Sponge? I'm taking that ski on, thank you very much. Some not so great moments include the blocks of yawn and a secret where you have to jump on very specific tiles. I know they look slightly different, but come on. All in all, a decent way to end this mostly superb part of the story. Certainly one of the most distinctive settings, Wreck of the Maria Doria has you on an upside down shipwreck at the bottom of the ocean. What keeps it from ranking higher is that I'm often confused about the way ahead. It's a long, stretchy level, and if you don't know what to do next, you'll most likely spend some time searching for the next piece of the puzzle. In this case, 3 circuit breakers. Oh, and there's blocks. Yay. At the very start, there's some good old forced fall damage, but after many tries, I think I found the safest way down. Man, these surroundings are great. It surely feels different from the other 3 Maria Doria stages. I especially adore the ship's bridge. Here it gets creepy all of a sudden. Even though it's not one of my personal favorites, I appreciate the design choices of this truly unique episode. The TR2 version of the unarmed level gives you back your pistols within minutes, making it feel kinda pointless to take them away in the first place. It's a missed opportunity, as I would have loved to see her outsmart her enemies instead of filling their bodies with 10,000 rounds apiece. Her escape feels kind of lackluster because the switch that opens the door is right there. They didn't really think a few blocks would stop me. This is Hulk Lara you're dealing with here. What penetrates both your ears and your brain is that freaking alarm. God, I hate it. Make it stop, please. The best part is the huge room with the catwalks and water below. Could do without the creepy breathing of the divers though. I have nothing against Offshore Rig per se, it's just that it's one of the most vanilla experiences you'll get on this collection. Oily vanilla is still unremarkable vanilla. The Cold War feels like a true continuation of TR2 with a beautiful cold setting, lots of combat and the return of the snow scooter. Like in Tibetan foothills, I'm not too keen on that vehicle, but thankfully those parts are brief. Why did they change the zebra look? Are zebra snow scooter paintings not modern enough?
Patched.
Thank you. I know I'm repeating myself, but again, I think they overdid it with the amount of humans. Other than that, I think it's definitely above average, with the ice cavern being a standout. What a stunning place and clearly a highlight of this expansion pack. How could you hate friendly invisible spear dudes? Or are they ice dudes? Who knows? Anyone who helps me get rid of cold-hearted guys with masks gets an entry in my book of friendships. The Uzis are hidden in such a cryptic spot that I completely forgot to pick them up on this run. Do I feel ashamed? Maybe. Compared to my previous ranking, Ice Palace dropped the lowest. As a kid, the Yetis in the cage at the beginning scared the crap out of me. They scream like idiots. Today I'm more afraid of the springboards. When it works as intended, it's a fun mechanic. Falling to your death, not so much. With the exception of the mighty snowman, I feel there's not much going for it sadly. The last part with the birdman has potential, but it's over too quick. Could have been more intense. Love me some big ass gongs though. That secret with the invisible bridge surely is one of the more obscure ones. I like how it's interconnected with the previous level, Catacombs of the Talion. While I used to hold it in high regard when I was younger, I must now admit that it suffers from being forgettable and just a tad underwhelming. In my book, RX Tech Mines is the scariest level of the trilogy, no question. The lighting is superb, especially for its time. My vote for the creepiest moment goes to this one. When that freaking mutant jumps at you. Damn. You don't want to get too close to the ones crawling on the floor breathing poison gas either. If we would go by atmosphere alone, I think it would rank much higher, but there's so much wrong here. The puzzle at the beginning is stupid but inoffensive compared to the freaking minecarts. Oh my god, I hate them so much. This time around I didn't fail that often, but I still didn't like it. Classic trial and error bullcrap. If you guessed that I used one small medipack in this level, you were correct. It's almost impossible to make it past the underwater part without freezing to death. I couldn't do it with the amount of energy I had left. I wish this whole part and the minecarts didn't exist. Sleeping with the Fishes might take the crown for the most water-heavy stage of them all. I don't even mean that in a negative way, it's just waterlogged. Honestly, I'm surprised how well it plays, even if it overstays its welcome just a little bit. I must confess that I can't stand the divers. Their pure existence simply annoys me. Good thing my dolphin crew is here to calm me down. Oh Echo, you and your buddies make it all worth it. They even help you get out of the water. I love you guys. The secrets are great as usual, especially the sunken ship. If only there weren't any drunk drivers. The scientists in this place were probably under the influence too. What the hell happened here? Add bad-tempered mutant fish and you've got a truly unique scenario going on. I still think it's one of the weaker Lost Artifact levels, but that just shows how great that package is. Can't go wrong with the dolphin posse, yo. Malibu Gorge is simply stunning. They completely knocked it out of the park in the remasters. Strong contender for the most beautiful setting in the trilogy. Most of it plays great too. On foot I vibe with every aspect except the poison lizards. They can F off. There's one tiny detail that almost ruins everything, and of course I'm talking about the kayak. As I've learned over the years, it has more fans than I thought, but that doesn't change the fact that I think it controls terribly. It's a constant struggle and probably a case of being too realistic. The most offensive part is having to drop down the plug hole. Sometimes you barely lose health, other times the fall wipes out your entire life bar. What's the point of this? This vehicle ruins an otherwise incredible experience that would have been much higher without it. The Hive is brutal. I mean, there are 41 mother-loving mutants. You think that's enough? In fact, there are only two things that come to mind when I think of this place. First, the Boulder Room. The textbook definition of try and die. Save every 2 seconds or you're gonna have a rocky road ahead of you. Second is that infamous room with a whopping 8 mutants. Thankfully, you don't have to fight them all at once if you do it right. By this point, I've been fighting these creatures to extinction, and that's just immoral. In the original release, this was the final level and it was a stressful journey to the finish line. Here it's only level 2, and for me it was such a breath of fresh air to see Egypt after it. While I can't name anything fundamentally wrong with it, it just isn't different enough to stand out among the other Atlantis levels that came before. After Ice Palace, Atlantis took the biggest fall compared to my previous ranking. Again, it might be my fatigue from battling so many mutants. Don't get me wrong, I think they're excellently designed monsters that totally frightened me as a kid. Love that it's even more disgusting now. You basically work your way up this tall room, which is a great concept. Every floor is full of challenges. A rolling boulder that respawns after leaving the room? Check. A lava chamber where square pillars change height after pulling a switch? Check. And who could forget the one and only doppelganger? It's so much fun to mess around with it. Too bad it gets killed. A sad but noble death. It's a bit annoying that the flying mutants in the tall room pretty much always hug the wall. So awkward. Maybe Atlantis will go up in a future ranking again, but as of now, it's one of the more tiring entries. TR3 has a few bite-sized boss levels, and this is the first one. Most of it is one giant labyrinth, which is as much fun as it sounds. So, not much. Because I know the way out, it doesn't take me long to reach the boss, but getting lost along the way is inevitable. Having to pull blocks doesn't make it less complicated. Later it gets better with a freaking boulder chasing you through a dark room full of venomous cobras. Yikes. Now that's some goosebumpy shit. The fight against Tony is pretty cool, I'd say. Just don't jump into the water. I also like that there's a grenade launcher casually laying around here. While I don't care for the labyrinth that much from a gameplay perspective, it once again displays how masterfully the designers created all the atmospheric settings. A decent finish to the excellent India chapter, if a bit uneven. The final stage of Tomb Raider starts off with a bang. This should have been the final boss. I mean, look at it. Nightmare fodder for an 8-year-old kid. Today it's a fairly simple fight, but still epic thanks to the music. After that it's unspectacular, except for the part where you shoot the Scion and cause earthquakes. On the PlayStation, the trap marathon near the end might be the hardest part of the game because there's no save crystals. The fight against Natla used to be underwhelming and abrupt. This time, however, she kicked my ass. I don't know if I only imagined it, but she seemed way more aggressive than what I was used to. I prefer it more gently, miss. The final part has you make your way up to the top of the room and then slide down a slope, which is a nice way to end things. So while it's not the epic of the century, it serves its purpose well. Visually, Antarctica is easy on the eyes, even on PlayStation. While it looks friendly, it doesn't play friendly. I'm not too keen on the ship, but do in fact fancy the inflatable boat. To me, it's without question the best vehicle in the game, thanks to the smooth controls. That first freaking mutant though, what a scare. The solution to the valve puzzle maybe isn't immediately clear because you have to look at the poster on the wall somewhere else. On most of my playthroughs, I wander around aimlessly because there's always something I missed. Now I forgot to pick up the crowbar after using it the first time. I wish they could have fixed that for this release. It surely is one of the more confusing kinds, but this time I got through with less hassle than my last attempt. A last chance to get some fresh air before it goes down into the claustrophobic mines. As a kid, Opera House was way too difficult for me and it struck a sour note. No matter how often I play it, at some point I'll most certainly get stuck, even today. I think it's one of the most complicated stages in the trilogy. Surprisingly, I've grown appreciative and even fond of it over the years. Who would have thought that an opera house could be just as creepy as a cave or a tomb? I mean, look at this place. Parts of the house are flooded, sandbags fall from the ceiling, and there's broken glass everywhere. People pissing on the stairs, you know they just don't care. This time around they added a chandelier, which is nice I guess. Plus, I love the sky in this part. It ends with a fight against an overpowered douchewad. How many shotgun blasts can he take? He's shirtless for crying out loud. If it was just a tad less irritating to navigate, I'd probably rank it even higher. The deck was my least favorite stage of Tier 2 for the longest time. As you can see, that's changed. The main reason we disliked it at the time was because it was so goddamn dark. On our old TV, you couldn't see shit. Today it's a different story and I adore the dark blue setting. Yes, it might be one of, if not the most head-scratching level in the game, and I too still struggle on every playthrough to find my way forward. Also, it's one of the hardest runs without medipacks because of this one part. I hate forced fall damage, and this one saps away most of your precious health. The best area is this hulking underground lake with sharks. And how awesome is it to start with a flamethrower on your ass? The answer is very. This proves that just because it's hard doesn't mean it sucks. Even childhood traumas can be overcome. I can safely say that from here on out I like every level and find less and less things that bother me. We're not at top tier stuff yet, but we'll get there. Just you wait. How stressful was it to deal with this many wolves right at the beginning? It's only level 2. Maybe the first instance where I had to give my controller back to my dad. If not for the wolves, then for the freaking bear. In contrast to Caves, which was linear, City of Wilcabamba takes a more open approach to level design. There's a keyhole, but where's the key? Although it's not hard to find, back then it was just so different from everything we had played up to this point. It also marked the first time in the water except for her own pool. It's optional, but the brave and curious were rewarded with 2 secrets. We also learned that this game can be mean due to hidden swinging blades or trapdoors. No wonder I have trust issues. The penitent man shall pass out. Even after so many years, I enjoy my stay here, despite the awful camera when playing with modern controls. Oh god! Angel of Darkness? Is this you?
Patched.
Thank you. Usually, I didn't care that much for Kingdom, but on this playthrough, I got a kick out of it. Maybe because I remembered what to do in this tree area. Oh, how much time I've spent searching for the way out. It also has one of the most cryptic secrets ever. Who randomly jumps into a wall like that? We get to meet the long-lost cousins of the Yetis, and they're equally frightening. Bigfoot's real, y'all. That whole part with the switch puzzle and cages is moody and has her kill more endangered snow leopards. A little later, some friendly warriors help us deal with our problems again. That's always nice. At the end, we meet the giant birdman for the second time. Something I missed completely on my previous playthroughs is that you can trap it in a pit after pulling a switch that makes the bridge collapse. Creative way to end it, I gotta say. And that view at the top of the trees? Wow. Probably the shortest stage of them all, City consists of one boss fight and that's pretty much it. Well okay, there's a secret for the hardcore explorers. It's not your standard encounter though. We have to make our way up to the top and shoot at the electrical panel to take out Miss Sophia Lee. Shooting her doesn't do any sort of damage, so don't even try. Doing all this without medipacks isn't as easy as I thought it would be. Her blast can deal a lot of damage, and trust me, you will take a hit sooner or later. Despite its brevity, I think it's one of the better boss encounters since it requires more than just weapon skills. I get a rush from trying to get to the top as fast as possible, taking minimal damage. It's a matter of timing. The remastered version looks pretty damn good too, better than I expected actually. So there's a decent London level after all. Who would have thought? The river Ganges starts with the most BS secret ever. If you could only see how many times I missed this stupid jump. It only worked after I dropped down, climbed back up, rolled and then jumped. How picky. Anyway, the first thing that comes to mind when you recall this part of the game is the quad bike. It controls quite well for the most part, but I get nervous every time precision is involved. I love that there are 2 branching paths at a certain point, taking completely different approaches. Too bad it's pointless if you're going for all secrets, because you'll miss some if you take the right path. What a bad choice they made, especially because the left way is the dull one. If it wasn't for that, I'd most certainly rank it higher because I love the setting a lot, especially the no secrets path. And again, I have to praise the work they did on the new visuals. They nailed the jungle aesthetics. You might wonder why the TR1 edition of Lara's home is this high on the list. After all, there isn't much to do. Kind of a domestic experience. That's true, but I think it serves its purpose perfectly. The core mechanics are explained without leaving anything out except for gunplay. It's a safe spot to learn movement in a 3D environment, something I was a complete newbie to. Yes, this was my first 3D experience. Just hearing Lara talk to me was special, even though I didn't understand English yet. However, I wish they'd have included some explanations for the modern controls. Everything she says refers to tank controls. That certainly would have been helpful, as I struggled to get the hang of it. Maybe they can fix that in a future patch. Until then, I'll stick to the old control style and tank my way through this magnificent pool. Future editions would add a bunch more replay value, but I still like coming back to this one. They actually changed the order of levels in Unfinished Business. This is now level 1, which makes complete sense timeline-wise. In my opinion, Atlantean Stronghold is the absolute best of this setting. It too suffers from an overload of battles against Atlanteans. It's not as bad as in the Hive, but they still show up too frequently for my taste. At least in the original MS-DOS version, you had a bunch of weapons and stuff left from the Egypt levels that took place in the future. Go figure. Here you only have pistols at the beginning, which leaves you underpowered. Add the freaking fall damage after this drop relatively early and a medipack-less run becomes a complete nightmare. For some reason it manages to stick out with its menacing atmosphere and level design. It feels like you're in hell. Plus it has the best swan dive in the classic series. Truly impressive. Let's get the elephant out of the room, and by elephant, I mean a giant freaking dragon. The Marco the Dragon Bartoli boss fight was terrifying as a kid. Yeah sure, you can just hide behind a pillar and shoot it from there without getting harmed, but look at it! I encountered one dumb glitch where the dagger was behind a pillar and trying to grab it shot me up in the air. What the hell was that all about? Yeah, so I absolutely don't care about the first part with the statues for reasons I've already mentioned. This level is really short and I wonder why it couldn't have been a closer for floating islands. It shares the same enemies and looks after all. Atmospherically it delivers on all fronts, especially in the audio department. It's so eerie. As the supposed ending to this long adventure, it works nonetheless and it's a part I always look forward to. After Maria Doria, this is refreshing. In my review I was mixed about it, mostly due to the snow scooter. Now I enjoyed my time a bit more. How the hell did I miss this part all these years? Never saw it before. What puzzles me a bit is that you have to jump through the ice in the beginning. Nowhere else is this required. I still stand by my statement that I'm not a huge cheerleader for the vehicle. With a little patience it shouldn't be such a hassle and I enjoyed driving around in the snowy areas. Except when precision jumps were expected of me. Those are dicey. I ran into several glitches here as well. Like, what the hell is going on here? Is he sitting in the air? Where's the snowmobile? Adore both the drum beat and the techno song, by the way. As a kid, I loved Tibetan foothills and now I understand better why that was. While not as visually impressive as the dragon, Spider Willard turned up the creep factor to 11. This is supposed to be the ultimate life form? No thanks, I'll pass. This too is a pretty creative boss encounter. Shoot the spider until it's stunned, grab a meteorite piece and repeat the process. Not technically demanding, but intense nonetheless. Oddly enough, I like the part after Willard's defeat even more. Climbing out at the top of the meteorite cavern gives me time to reflect on this long journey. It's also fun to blast everything you've got at the last few guys. The snowy setting at night is beautiful too. New here is the addition of music during the boss fight. It was cut from the original release and instead used in Chambers of Tulun in TR4. I was never a fan of that song, so I'm not stoked about its inclusion, but appreciate they took the time to add it. Return to Egypt takes City of Khamun from TR1 and floods it. How brilliant is this concept? You might get déjà vu. Most of it is completely new however, and they turned up the enemy dial. Must be some kind of record for panther hunting. Poacher Lara's at it again. That final stretch outside was unique at the time because we had never been under the starry night sky before. I mean, check out that moon, man. The only thing I don't like is getting to the Uzis. Either you accidentally end the level or the hot sand kills you. Where am I allowed to walk? Other than that, it's a bit of a romp figuring out the way ahead. That is if you like crocodile pits, of course. Even though it's the third level of remastered unfinished business, you still start with just your pistols. Everything you collected in Atlantis is gone. I guess that's fine considering it used to be the first level anyway. In an unexpected twist, Bartoli's goons raid Lara's place after she gets home from China. Finally, we get to see what's behind that mystery door. A shotgun, medicine, and a shit ton of ammo. Basically, all you do is shoot, 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 and kill, kill, kill. Devote every brain cell to those two things. While I'm usually not the biggest fan of combat, here it's a different story. Having the tutorial turned into a wild shootout scenario at night was a strike of genius. Even the big guy from the opera house returns. Lara running around in a dressing gown isn't too shabby either, if I might say so. It's like, don't mess with her at any time of the day. You'll regret it. Although again I was surprised how hard it was without medicine. With a bit of practice, it shouldn't be a biggie. It's the ending to TR2 we didn't know we wanted until we got it.
Don't you think you've seen enough?
No, actually there are 31 entries left. This is a tone shift from the caves and temples of the past. A blue sky in a Tomb Raider game? Not only that, this marked the first appearance of a drivable vehicle. While I'm cynical of driving stages, the speedboat is great and controls flawlessly. Driving across the canals of Venice is such a hoot. Who could forget smashing through the windows or jumping out of the boat as it rams into mines? As a kid, I usually skipped the optional chunk of the level. Today, I love every second of exploring the setting. Given that this is the first time we get this many human enemies, at this point, I'm not annoyed by them yet. I haven't even mentioned the classical music yet, which is one of the all-time greats. After the punishingly hard first level, The Great Wall, this one lets you breathe. This proves that you don't need tombs to create an iconic TR experience. The lost artifact ends with a level out of this world. Within the first seconds, a giant meteorite is about to squash you. Man, let me settle in first. The sky looks incredible in both versions, but I think the original has an edge overall. The enemies are... how do I put this lightly? Abominations. I mean, they're literally heartless. My personal highlight is this part with the floating dead bodies. Sweet bouncy Jesus, what is this place? This of course marks the return of Sophia Lee, and she brings her old bag of tricks with her. This time it's possible to shoot at her towards the end, and that sure is satisfying. At least now she has a life bar, so you know when a hit counts. With the 5th artifact collected, the final stage of the remasters is over. Even though it's fairly short in length, Reunion manages to stick out in a sea of great expansion pack levels. Worthy finish of this era. Yay, the Nevada outfit! This feels like a bunch of the previous industrial levels welded together. Not only does the quad bike return, but also... trains. Oh god. Combined, it makes for a great action set piece. It can be a bit hard to see where you're supposed to drive, but other than that, no complaints. That is if you can accept that the computer that activates pumps and fills the pit with water is on the crapper. Because logic. Shakespeare Cliff itself is above average, but what sets it apart and pushes it to new heights is the final secret. You swim to what seems like another dimension. Where the hell is this? When the hell is this? The inclusion of goddamn pteranodons simply blew me away. I don't think many will disagree when I say that this is the greatest secret of them all. For me, there's no competition. This might be a surprise, but I think Diving Area is a superb industrial level. Mostly. What's going on with that freaking ladder? It takes an eon to climb to the top, and even worse, you have to do it twice. I dig the overall structure and even the underwater sections. Sure, the setting is a bit bland, but I think the rooms and the areas are varied enough to make navigation easier. I love this little Easter egg on the monitor. It's one of the few combat heavy levels that I don't mind, especially because we're introduced to the mighty flamethrower guys. I wish I had one of these. I'd burn these pricks to a crisp. I also like that final stretch where you hear Marco Bartoli interrogating and torturing. Thanks to subtitles, I can finally understand what he's saying. Whereas I'm not obsessed with this whole oil rig and Maria Doria part of the game, this one stands out to me. The first tomb of the series starts strong with 2 raptors on your tail. Raptors make everything better. It's also the first time we have to run away from a rolling boulder. Lara needs to complete 3 challenges to get to the first piece of the ski-on. The one with the bird symbol makes you pull switches that move chunky blocks. The other 2 aren't that exciting to be honest, but this early in the game I'm fine with this approach. How awesome was it to notice that the mummy's watching you? Oh god, I'm so sorry Mr. Mummy, please don't put a curse on me. As you pick up the ski-on, epic music kicks in and the ceiling starts to collapse. For 8-year-old me, this was a revelation. This is what 3D games can do. In a long line of firsts, we get a shootout with a human for a change. As dumb as Larson is, this is an iconic moment that I'm always looking forward to. Great finish to the Peru chapter.
Thank you.
Me again. It's hard to nail down the exact spot where true greatness begins, but the upcoming levels are all just that. Great. Egypt is the setting most synonymous with Tomb Raider, and what an introduction we got. City of Khamun has a sphinx pretty much right at the start. Love how it looks with the new graphics. From start to finish, it's absolutely stunning and one of my favorite places in the series. It introduced us both to the mighty panthers and psychopathic goddamn mummies. What is wrong with these creatures? Love that you now see their teeth, which makes them even more frightening. Even without teeth, they surely scared me as a kid. As did the Dark Panther room, which isn't so dark anymore. Why? This is a case where I think the original did it better. Opening a trap door to fill the room below with sand in order to reach an opening was also a novel approach to level design. After 2 grease levels that left me in a sleepy haze, this was a daybreak. On paper, Bartoli's hideout might not sound like a thrill ride, but I've always held it in high regard. But seriously, what's going on with the ladders? This looks atrocious. How did it get released like that?
Patched.
Thank you. Anyway, the room with the chandeliers is the absolute highlight for me, thanks in part to the music. Making it to the top of this big honking room is extremely satisfying. This place feels so peaceful, except for sword-swinging statues, blade traps, fire traps, and, well, all the violence going on. You even get to blow up a building. Again, I love the yellow sky and I enjoy exploring the library and underwater parts. This one never gets boring, although I wish we could drive the speedboat for more than 5 seconds. Since the first time I played it, I've always been a fan of this part of Venice in particular, and I can't imagine that ever changing. Sure, the first level in the series isn't as complex or difficult as the stuff we'd see later, but there's a certain magic here that you can't deny. Caves draws you in from the first second with the mysterious ambient sounds and feeling of isolation. It eases you into the game, starting with just a few bats as your first enemies. Your first encounters with wolves and bears are from a safe distance unless you fall down. After all, this was the first experience of this kind for many players, including myself, having only played Lara's Home moments before this. Think about how it must have felt in 1996. When you first encounter wolves face to face, epic music comes roaring in, guns blazing, and it shows you that things are about to get real. Playing it today brings me back to the 90s and gives me a nostalgic overdose. While not too long of an undertaking, I couldn't imagine a more perfect way to start Lara's first adventure. Whereas the first time we visited Lara's home was just about learning her moveset, the second time around there's more to do. Outside you get a parkour tutorial. They combined it with a timed challenge, so there's actually some replay value. That's not all. You get to explore the house and, despite the rooms being kind of barren, it's fun to just explore and hang around. There's a labyrinth in the garden that eventually leads you to a switch. This opens a timed door with a strict deadline. Down here you realize just how rich Miss Croft is. I mean, damn. No wonder she can afford the best butler on the planet. Winston is awesome, if a bit strange and gassy. Not only can you lock him in the freezer, but this time around he literally turns blue. Is that not morbidly hilarious? Definitely one of the best tutorial levels of all time. When I think of Catacombs of the Talion, the first thing that comes to mind are screaming, stomping yetis. First you only hear it, and as a kid I was scared to go down there. Arguably one of the most frightening parts of the game is this dark room infested with yetis. No problem for the grenade launcher. Just one question. Why didn't they fix this weird ass glitch where the yeti's running against an invisible wall? From one side you see bars, from the other, nothing. It has more going for it than just yetis though. I adore the entire setting with a mix of icy caves, endangered snow leopards, cold lakes with hungry fish, and giant snowballs galore. You even get some parts that tempt you, just out of reach, so you'll return to them one day when you're a stronger Lara. This is where the game gets darker in tone again, despite the white snowy surroundings. Me likey. Compared to my previous ranking, this is the level that rose the highest. Why? Because it's the holy grail of animal levels. I mean, we're in an abandoned zoo for crying out loud, and every single critter wants you for breakfast. The aviary is a feast for the eyes. Of course you can't do without some weird secrets. This time they've got some strange black lizards similar to Malibu Gorge. But come on, why does this part look so bad? Compared to the original. Some of their decisions baffle my mind. It can be confusing at times and finding the way ahead isn't intuitive. But this time I had a blast. The green cave at the end sticks out thanks to more floating dead bodies and a guy with a hole in his chest. Better place the artifact in him. Gross. It's a madhouse exclamation point gets better the more I play it. Who knows if it might go up my ranking even further in the future. Easily the best level of unfinished business for me, Temple of the Cat is now the finale of the TR1 saga. Again, this makes sense story-wise. While it's not as difficult as The Hive, it sure has some nail-biting moments that make it a worthy final stage. The sheer amount of mummies you have to fight in this room alone is insane, not to mention a waste of toilet paper. As the temple's name suggests, this place is cat-themed and that makes it an interesting setting. Here's my most beloved room. Even on MS-DOS, this looked mesmerizing. The giant cat statue is incredible too, and climbing up its head is an unforgettable journey. You even get inside its meow mouth and pull a switch that rolls out its tongue. Brilliant game design. If only it didn't include the worst secret of them all. This block-pushing orgy is just agony. I'd argue this is the most beautiful setting of the TR1 saga, and it's too bad I missed out on it until 2010 when I first played it. I imagine this won't be most people's favorite from the Lost Artifact. For me, it combines everything I want from a well-rounded Tomb Raider stage. Mysterious caves in the beginning, dangerous traps, spooky ambient sounds, and creative secrets. Like in The Hive, there's a boulder puzzle that's purely based on trial and error, but this one's not as obnoxious or tough to figure out. Spike walls rank among my favorite traps, and there's no shortage here. The area with the radioactive stream is another memorable and incredible looking set piece. The final secret is hysterical. The person who came up with the idea to include a bunch of crazy red-haired Highlanders waving swords hopefully got a well-deserved raise. This is so ridiculously over the top, but I love every second of it. Without question, it's my personal highlight of the Lost Artifact expansion pack. Another short boss stage, Temple of Puna reigns supreme due to its incredible atmosphere. I mean, it's a temple, and that's what TR does best. It could stand for Temple Raider, and no one would bat an eye. I like that first area best, with its blue tone and creepy cannibals. The room with the rolling blades is unique and a fun, if short, challenge. The spike ceiling is a pushover though, because you can just pull out a block to stay out of harm's way. After that comes maybe the largest boulder of them all, King of Boulders, and I get serious Crash Bandicoot flashbacks. The boss fight might be monotonous, but I dig it nonetheless. It's about flow. All you do is side flip, shoot, and occasionally get rid of lizards. It's still intense because he kills you with one hit. All things considered, I can't point to a better boss level in this game, which might show that they overall aren't S-tier material. After the stressful ending of Malibu Gorge, it's a delight to spend some time here. Now we're getting to the epic stuff. These upcoming stages are better than great. They're amazing. I know this is probably at the top of most people's rankings, deservedly so. First it's business as usual, but then you get outside for the first time, now with a cloudy sky. Seeing the red raptors was such a surprise, but then something happened I surely wasn't prepared for at the time. A goddamn mother-honking T-Rex. Holy crap, that thing's huge. And angry. At the time I hid in this opening, cramped out, and sniped it from there. The Lost Valley has you search for 5 cogwheels in a neat little scavenger hunt. For some reason she wouldn't climb up here the first few times I tried. Has never happened to me before. All people remember it for are the dinosaurs. To this day, I'd say it's the most iconic moment in the entire series. It cemented the legendary status this game would get. Quintessential Tomb Raider and one of the best gaming memories I have. Nevada is easily my favorite chapter of the entire series. It's nice to have a desert setting that doesn't take place in Egypt for once. Looks completely different. Nevada Desert, of course, has one of the most infamous jumps that took me years to figure out. You have to jump over there without holding onto the edge? Why? Well, beyond that, there's a whole stack of cool moments, like the occasional military jet flying by. That whole water wheel waterfall part is pretty rad, as long as you don't fall into the water and have to climb up all over again. Bummer, dude. The quad bike shows up once again, but it's just for a very short section. Who put the access card on the roof? What if it gets windy? It's a relief that we can finally read some of the articles on the walls. Man, even though I've gotten stuck at the water tank part a few times over the years, this is such a great time and a fantastic start to this incredible part of the story. This is a no weapons level done right. They added a short cutscene at the beginning, a nice little bonus. For a high security compound, security sure sucks around here, as evidenced by how easily you can tear through the place. Not only is it a cakewalk to escape the prison cell, but also to just let out all of the prisoners. We're homies now, and they take care of business. Are we sure Lara's on the side of the good guys? Anyway, it takes a while to get our weapons back, but I love that we have to outsmart the guards and rely on our wits. Who would have thought that stealth works so well? By the way, this time we not only get pistols and the Desert Eagle at the end, but also all ammo and medipacks we picked up before we got caught. That's amazing and potentially changes the way I'll play in the future. For an industrial level, there's a hell of a lot of variety thrown in to keep me engaged. The heartbeats help too. When a tutorial level shows up this high, you know it's done something right. What looks like the TR2 edition at first sight turns into something new, a wacky little expedition. The training area is back to explain the new moves, but the obstacle course outside returns as well. Here you'll also find the pistols and finally get to shoot at that skunky butler of yours. As it turns out, he's indestructible, so freezer it is. In the library there's a book you can pull which puts out the flame in the fireplace. Climb up the chimney, push a few blocks and pull a lever to open the door to her treasure chamber, which is now a giant aquarium. It holds a key to the labyrinth, which is now a quad bike racing track. Then there's also a button at the pool which eventually leads to a room with some of her artifacts are displayed next to a freaking T-Rex head. I could praise this level all day. Best tutorial ever. There's something special about Sanctuary of the Scion. It's the first time it gets truly dark and sinister. It's also revealed what the mummies really look like. Good luck sleeping tonight. Those stairs are burned into my mind. Want more nightmares? Some of them have wings. Yikes! Nowhere is safe. It almost feels like a horror game. The giant sphinx is a landmark set piece of the entire trilogy. It's sublime. Here, the camera didn't give me that view, which is a downer. Another part that blew me away was the two enormous statues underwater. And come on, Uzis on an invisible platform? That's unheard of. Later you've got a monster ambush, followed by yet another encounter with that country-fried douche of a cowboy, Larson. This time he meets his match. What an exquisite ending to the Egypt adventure. With an opening that stunning, you can't go wrong. Just take a moment and let it sink in. Enjoy it while you can. It takes a sudden dark twist. At the beginning you get to choose between two paths. That is if you found the skull key. If you want all secrets, this is the way to go and it's possible to get to the other route later. In the original it said 4 out of 3 secrets at the end. Not anymore. Coastal Village has you deal with a bunch of cannibals, which is kind of disturbing. There are plenty of jump scares that keep you on your toes. I hate that the quicksand doesn't move in the new version. There's no way of telling you can't go there.
Patched.
Thank you. The traps range from delightfully nasty to plain old bullshit. But I'm such a fan of the visuals, the village and overall structure of it all. In a long line of exotic locations, it stands tall as a pinnacle. There's no doubt in my mind that Furnace of the Gods destroys the competition. It's not only the best level of Golden Mask, but the undisputed master of all expansion packs. Its sound effects create such a haunting atmosphere. That shadowy blue room with the invisible warriors is the single most astonishing landmark of the game. Again, the remasters spoil it a bit because the music keeps looping. First time's a charm, the second's bearable, and it just gets embarrassing from there.
Patched.
Thank you. After the blue part comes gold, gold and more gold. That's incredible too, but tell me why the golden nugget's barely visible. You could see it just fine in the PC original.
Patched.
Thank you. Enough complaining, this does look outstanding, I gotta say. Can't go wrong with shiny ice caverns either. Without this stage, Golden Mask would be a decent add-on, but this elevates it to a new tier. While it's hardly the most complex level ever, I've always had a special relationship with Colosseum since the first time I entered it many moons ago. I'll start with more complaints about the remasters. Pierre just wouldn't leave me alone. He ran around in circles for 3 minutes. Never had this happen to me before. This is another case where I think the original works better because of the poor draw distance. The Colosseum seemed larger when you couldn't see the boundaries. I still adore this setting and all the challenges that come with it. As a kid, I called this the lion level because you kill so many of them. It keeps you interested, not with difficulty, but with varying puzzles and obstacles along the way. It's nice to actually see the cloudy sky this time around. Although it's sandwiched between 2 Grease levels that are even better, that doesn't take away from its magnificence. Here's where I have to make a cut. The remaining 9 levels are all perfect and ranking them was so incredibly hard. But I had no choice, so here we go. When it comes to industrial settings, Area 51 takes the grimy steel crown. At first it feels like high security compound, but it shakes things up with laser traps. That's nothing compared to what comes next. A freaking UFO? Goddamn aliens? The X-Files fanboy in me couldn't be happier. I guess I could, because Lara gets to swim with orcas. A bit random, but who am I to complain? Another epic scene as you run away from a launching missile. Reminds me of Moonraker. While I really dig the indoor settings, it's a palate cleanser to get outside once in a while. The only gripe I have is that there's no boss fight. Also, the inside of the UFO hurts my sense of physics as it's much larger than how it appears on the outside. On the heels of 2 already excellent stages, the Nevada finale manages to top them both while playing around with the myths surrounding the real place it's inspired by. What an amazing start to the second adventure. Whereas Caves eased you into the first game, the Great Wall says screw that and throws you into a legit trap marathon. How cruel for newcomers, but oh so satisfying for TR veterans. You just know instantly that TR2 means business. It marks the first time in the series we beheld a sunny sky, but it gets dark quickly. Just tell me one thing. Why are the itsy bitsy spiders strong like freaking tanks? Having an exoskeleton doesn't make you an M1 Abrams. Just die already. What is wrong with these damn remasters? Apparently, a lot. The 2 T-Rexes are weaklings in comparison.
Patched.
Thank you. Yes, there are 2 Cretaceous bitches in the first level. I pity anyone who missed this incredible secret. Certainly the hardest opening level of the trilogy, but it's perfect. I haven't talked about the cutscenes in this video, but the one at the end is the most iconic to me. Nostalgia overload.
These doors are waiting for the right one, the right time to arrive.
I talk about the atmosphere a lot, I know, but no place rocks it as hard in that department as Temple of Xi'an. Holy Lord, this is something. You get that constant feeling that demons are watching you in this cursed place. Truly feels like the home of Satan. It's one of the longest levels and it's so chock full of traps and danger that I don't know where to start. How about the mildly disturbing spider cave? Without a shred of doubt, the creepiest part of TR2. Next to the eel, of course. Pretty much every room wants you dead. The only part I'd cut out is the springboards, but the rest belongs without question. Everything that involves dragons automatically wins in my book. I believe it's the most nail-biting stage in this already difficult game, and I mean that in the most positive sense I can convey. It pushes your limits and makes you feel like an expert when you've finally done it. As a kid, I called this the gorilla level. It starts in a fancy pool, relaxing and whatnot, but soon you'll slaughter too many animals to count. The gimmick of Palace Midas is this room with 5 switches and several doors that open with certain combinations. The fire pillars were rough for me as a kid. Today not so much, but it's still a cool challenge. The level design is ingenious, having you return to the beginning much later, but this time on the ledge above the pool. It's quite large too. Once again it shows off Lara's inhuman strength. Yeah, Lara did that. The goal is to turn lead bars into gold, and you know where this is going. Stepping on King Midas's hand turns her into gold, and that's officially my personal favorite death of hers. Hall of Fame material. Every time I get here, I just have to do it. I can't resist. Who doesn't love a golden Lara? Since the first time I played it, St. Francis Folly has gone down as my #1 stage of the original TR, and all these years later, that still holds true. It began my love-hate relationship with a douchey French guy, Pierre. I absolutely adore the cat and mouse game they're playing, but he's also a covetous prick. The best part of the game for me is the tall room with the doors named after different gods. We would see this concept a few more times in this series, but here it's done best. Thor's room used to be a highlight, especially because of the music. Today I'm irritated by the lightning and boring block pushing. That doesn't stop me from having a phenomenal time opening all doors and beating the challenges behind them. Nowadays I think Damocles reigns supreme. Those swords on the ceiling are always good for a shiver. A masterclass in level design overall. Along with caves, jungle has to be the stage I've played the most over the years. Yeah, sure, it's the beginning of TR3, but it's just so good. First of all, I love the setting. It looked amazing on PS1 and I'm happy to report the remaster did it justice. I mean, wow. The monkeys are friendly and occasionally show you the way. If only they weren't pesky little thieves. It's not as difficult as the Great Wall, but has its fair share of traps. Something spooky in that jungle is my most beloved piece of music in any TR game and sets the mood perfectly. It's just so different from everything else and stands out in the best way possible. Having a total of 6 secrets, there's so much to explore and I love every single moment. Like no other level, it teleports me back to the late 90s when I first played it and fell in love with Lara's third adventure. Always a delight to come back. Barkang Monastery is undoubtedly the most complex and puzzle-heavy stage in this package. We're talking about a trove of keys and items to collect. Still, I hardly get confused at any point because each area is distinct. Step by step you unlock more paths and get to explore this mesmerizing setting. Who can forget climbing up this giant statue? My personal highlights are the monks. They help you fight Bartoli's goons as long as you don't harm them. Accidentally shoot one of them and you've got a major problem. I usually let them fight, even if that means some of them won't make it. This had not been done before and therefore it was such a unique concept for the series. Some parts test your reflexes like this gauntlet of traps. And it's a long level in general, but the setting saves it from getting boring. It's as clear as day to me that this is the high point of TR2. There are only 2 levels left. 2 levels that exceeded expectations and still blow me away after all these years. Let's show them some love. I've played this stage so often, I know the path across the lily pads by heart. Crash Site brings back the red raptors, but this time they're way stronger and actually pose a threat. You can't rely on the friendly soldiers because they're just dino snacks. There's one pointless part that takes a while and only rewards you with a set of Uzi clips. Despite that, everything is pure gold. Distracting piranhas with a dead raptor? Brilliant! The raptor house freaked me out as a kid because it was so dark. The remaster sadly doesn't capture that feeling. Of course, the highlight is the fight against the mighty T-Rex. It doesn't see you if you stay still and you can't even distract it with flares. Love those details, man. At the end you shoot rockets at a seemingly endless barrage of raptors. What a blast and the ultimate way to end it. This is Lost Valley on steroids and I'm all for it. Attentive viewers might have guessed it. My #1 level of the trilogy is Temple Ruins. Everything I want from a Temple Raider, Tomb Raider stage is here. It starts outside and has some alluring territories to visit. When you enter the temple, that's when it picks up. Pretty much right at the start you battle the first of many 6-armed statues. Love this, as you have to get near them or else they block your shots with their scimitars. I get a kick out of making my way up this room and shooting the cobra with my shotgun mid-jump. This is only the 2nd level, but man is it brutal at times. Death lies in wait, ready to spring. There are so many traps and one-hit kills. Sure, the first few times it was frustrating. Today I think it's the most fun stage to complete without a medipack for a rewarding challenge. It sets the perfect tone and delivers on all fronts. It's the absolute best TR Trilogy Remastered has to offer. Wow, we've made it. Take a deep breath and exhale with me. Now before you all rate, comment and subscribe, let's have some fun with statistics. I did the math and created 3 more rankings. First, let's quickly rank the settings by their average ranking. I counted a total of 20 settings. No surprise at all, London is at last place with an average ranking of 63. But there's one other setting with the exact same number, and that's Las Vegas. It's only one level, so yeah. Then comes Maria Doria with 55.3, followed by Atlantis with 48.2. Atlantis sure took a nosedive this time around. It's followed by Antarctica with 47.5 and then Alaska with 42.5. Do I have something against settings that start with A? Oil Rig has an average of 41.5 and Channel Tunnel exactly 40. Scotland has 38.5, followed by Venice with 33.3. Coming in at number 10, we have Egypt with an average score of 32. China has 29.5 and Greece 28.8. Tibet's just slightly stronger with 28.3, and then there's Peru with 27.5. Entering top 5 territory, we have Croft Manor with an average of 26.8, followed by France with 25.5. Number 3 is India with 22.8, number 2 is South Pacific with 20.5, and the undisputed number 1 is Nevada with an incredible score of 13.3. It's like I said in my TR3 review, Nevada, South Pacific and India are top tier for me.
Now let's rank the games before we wrap things up.
At the bottom is Tomb Raider II Golden Mask with an average score of 46.6. Then comes Tomb Raider 2 with 36.3. The rest is so close I can't believe it. 4 is Tomb Raider 3 with 34.9. Number 3 is Tomb Raider Unfinished Business with 34.8. Number 2 is Tomb Raider 3 The Lost Artifact with 34.7. And number 1 is the original Tomb Raider with an average score of 34.6. You can't make this stuff up.
Maybe it's more clear when we count the main games and their expansions together. Let's do it.
Number 3 is the TR2 Saga with 38.5, number 2 is TR3 with 34.8, and number 1 is the original TR with Unfinished Business at 34.7. Wow.
That's not my actual ranking of the games because obviously they're more than just the product of their level rankings. But it's fun to look at this stuff nonetheless.
Replaying all these games with updated graphics was a treat. Sure, there was plenty of stuff that annoyed me, some of which I called out and sprinkled throughout this list. But the pure existence of these remasters makes me happy. I completely suck at the modern controls and I hate the camera in this mode. Meanwhile, they've fixed some stuff and hopefully they'll take care of more mistakes and flaws down the line. Creating this list was extremely difficult and a lot of work. So I hope you don't take it too seriously and see it just for what it is. A list by some random dude who has been a fan of the series since pretty much the beginning.
The reason we're all here sharing our experiences is our appreciation for Tomb Raider. I'd love to see some of your lists, so head down to the comments and try to rank them yourselves. Thank you so much for watching this long ass video and I'll see you later. Have a nice day.